Well, hey guys, Bart from Bicycle Ride YouTube, and you guys know I'm doing a review on this wallet-friendly 3-bike hitch rack to carry bicycles on the back of your vehicle, with a 2-inch receiver. So I'm very familiar with the top-tier brands. I'll name a couple of them real quick: Thule, Yakima, Kuat, Rocky Mounts. One Up. You know, there's a lot of top tier brands out there, but with top tier brands also comes a top tier price. Now, as someone that's familiar with those brands, I am on a budget right now, and I wanted to carry 3 bikes. So I'm going to be comparing this to see if the Outfitter brand rack can stack up to the big boys at half the cost. Watch my first video on this when I talk about the importance of your bicycle rack purchase, how important that can affect you down the road. There's a lot of safety aspects with carrying a bike on the back of a truck, or especially on the back of a camper or motorhome. There's a lot of 2-inch receiver racks, and if you don't know what that is, I'm about ready to show you here in a second. But there's a lot of racks on the market that fit into a 2-inch receiver that say aren't RV or camper friendly, and that's for a reason. Let me go over that real quick for you. Have you ever sat in the back of the school bus and hit a bump? There's a pendulum effect the further out the rack goes and the more weight that's on it. So I was one of those kids that loved to sit in the back of the school bus. I even took a couple black eyes to make sure I sat back there, but it was worth it to me. And I loved when my school bus would go over a railroad track or something, because you literally get slung out of the back of the seat. Every once in a while I'd get in trouble and have to go sit by the bus driver. When they went over a railroad track or a bump, you didn't even feel it. So that's what I'm just saying. The further back your rack is, the more rebound effect it has. And when you're rebounding 3 e-bikes, that can be detrimental if it's not held onto this rack correctly, or if it's not mounted correctly. So in this video, I'm going to go over my initial impressions of the build quality. I'm going to go over loading and unloading a bike, different style bikes. I'm going to go over some real world data. Even though I've only had this rack in my hands a few days, I am camping right now around the United States. I'm staying at some different state parks and campgrounds where RVers have gravitated to e-bikes. I love to see it. And that's where I first saw the Outfitter racks, was on the back of one of my neighbor's campers. I've talked to several people who have had this rack for over 6 months, with some mainly good feedback, and some not so good feedback. So stick around for a little bit if you're interested in the Outfitter rack or the direct consumer wallet friendly racks compared to your top tier rack systems. So I'm going to talk about the good and the bad and what I've heard on this rack specifically. So why am I someone that is familiar with the bicycle industry and has seen the ramifications of rack failure, have seen ramifications of people not putting it on the rack correctly, and why am I risking testing out a direct-to-consumer product at a wallet-friendly price point compared to just going and getting one of the top-tier models that I'm already familiar with and I know work well and have good customer service and really good hardware? It's price. So I always say support your local bike shop. Believe me, I felt that because my bike shop failed. Not because people didn't support me, it's just things are tough right now. There's a lot of online marketplace competition. I myself have had an online marketplace. If anybody knew Military Cyclist or GovVelo, because of the success in those online marketplaces, I was able to open a brick and mortar store. That's how I know the inside of the bicycle industry and the rack industry. I'm also a professional bike mechanic, so I have built thousands of racks for people, assembled thousands of racks of all makes and models, especially the brands that I carried, but also people that brought their direct consumer racks in to have me build as well. And not only did I build those, but I installed them on people's vehicles. I put bikes on those racks, and then I helped customers come to my bike shop and unload. You know, I go to a lot of events, so a lot of people ask me about the bicycle rack, and that's why I figured I would do this video. And selfishly, I need to get a couple bikes around the United States. Bentonville, Arkansas, I'm coming. That is a cycling mecca in the United States, and when I owned the bicycle shop, I didn't have much time to go travel and take advantage of that. I've been lucky enough being on YouTube that people have gotten to know me, and I've been invited to several different events around the country. And being a former bike shop owner, that means I don't have a job right now, so money is concerning to me. I am used to spending more money on bicycle gear. When I spoiler alert, this rack here, this 3-bike e-bike rack that has several different functions to it and can hold 250 pounds is under $400. I think right now on their website it's like $200 or $380. I've been into bikes for a long time. That is a very, in my mind, my experience, that's a very little amount of money to spend for a bike rack that says it can carry 250 pounds, that has a ramp, that has an anti-wobble, that has 3 touch points basically, and has been said that it's a very safe rack. I needed that budget option right now, so I do say support your bike shop, but I'm also in that team right now that I did go by my local bike shop, and they had some amazing racks there that I'm very familiar with. But when I say that this rack is under $400, the top tier models start at double that for anything that can carry this type of weight. Right now I don't have $1,000 to spend on a rack to go travel on some vehicles that I'm borrowing. I do have some top tier racks back in my home in Mississippi, but I'm not home in Mississippi. I don't have my adventure van. I miss my adventure van, but I'm very grateful that I have several friends and YouTube viewers that have offered to lend me their vehicle, that have offered to lend me bicycles. I have companies that say, hey, you know, ride our bicycle, let's do a test on it. So I am borrowing equipment right now, and when I borrow equipment, I'm even more careful with that equipment than I am my own. There's a reason that I really liked my Kuat, and I still do, my Kuat NV. It has what's called a wheel hook. So it's like a shepherd's hook that holds the wheel right here. It's not quite as steady as having 3 touch points. You only have 2 touch points on that. You've got a wheel hook and you've got a wheel strap on the back. As a mountain biker, I have seen people sling bikes off of that rack by not putting it on properly. So there's a couple new style racks now, the scissor rack, and I see Outfitter has a scissor rack. I think they call it a wheel vise rack. Let me get that terminology correct. The Outfitter rack that I really like now that I've researched this company, it's called the tire clamp e-bike rack. And it's got a double bar that pushes on the wheel here, and it's got a double bar that pushes on the wheel in the back. And then Outfitter's got something clever here like a wheel chock, so you can actually get 3 touch points off of that rack. But that rack is right, $629. That seems like a fair price. I haven't touched that rack or seen it, but that seems like a very fair price for that modern scissor style rack. There's a company called One Up that's been building those for years. Amazing construction. I think it's all built in the United States. It's an amazing rack, but it is expensive. It's well over $1,000 for that rack. I'm used to paying over $1,000 for a rack, but at the moment I can't afford that. So when I did go by the local bike shop, I'm not home, so I can't call it local, but the bike shop's just right down the road from the campground. You know, I looked at their option. They had the Yakima, and the Yakima rack was really, really nice. And of course, there's many, many models of it, but I needed one that would carry 3 bikes. I'm going to be carrying 2 race bikes, basically, some carbon fiber lighter weight race bikes and an e-bike. And while I'm talking, I'm going to go ahead and get this bike off the rack. This is a nicer mountain bike that I borrowed for the film. This is, let's say, a $4,000 e-bike, and normally, or I shouldn't say e-bike, full suspension mountain bike. And normally, I don't like anything touching my seat post. You can see this is a little bit wobbly here right now. I'm gonna show you why that is in a minute. But for now, let me just show you how this rack mounts. It's a strap on the front wheel, which I can handle. It's a strap on the back wheel, which I can handle. And then it's got a safety strap that's up here I've put on the seat post. I personally don't like that. It is very safe. With these 3 touch points, there's a lot less likelihood that this bike is going to shake or fall off, especially on the mountain bike, going into the mountain bike trails. But personally, I don't like anything touching my seat post. This bike even has what's called a dropper post, and you don't want to scar that up. Like if I go riding a mountain bike and this gets dirty and then I put the strap on it, it could potentially sand off the surface or scratch it up. When I'm borrowing a bike like this, I definitely don't want to bring it back with marks from something. So I personally am going to wrap this in like a terry cloth or a microfiber cloth or something when I put it on. I don't like having to do that. I'm a little bit bougie, and I don't really like having to put a cloth around something. But the rack does what it says it's going to do. It holds the bike very securely with 3 touch points. This is about a 30-pound bike, so it's not a problem for me to just lift it on and lift it off. One thing I really like about this rack is it's got this rear wheel chock that moves. So when you get that rear wheel put in, you push that chock up and it holds it. That's something that I didn't have on my Kuat rack. And I have seen bikes fall off the shepherd hook style racks, mainly because people don't put that shepherd hook up towards the front far enough, because they don't want that shepherd hook touching their paint and rubbing the paint. And some of you guys watching this are like, man, it's a bike, why are you worried about paint? But believe me, when you're, have a $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 bike, that it does matter. Not that I'm saying that a $500 bike doesn't matter. I've got some hybrid bikes at home, and I treat those just the same. I don't like things rubbing my paint. A lot of us are like that. A lot of us don't really care. This right here is an e-bike. This is about $1,000 e-bike. Once again, it does have, it's on there very sturdy. It's a lot sturdier than this tray, and I'll show you why in a minute, why this tray is not that sturdy. But it has 3 touch points here. One is on the seat post. With a bike like this, I still care about it, but I'm not that worried about rubbing my seat post through. This is a commuter bike, e-bike, and it is held on there very good. Now, one thing I have heard from someone that uses this rack and this bike is putting this strap. This is a smaller wheel bike. This is a 20-inch wheel bike, so there's not a lot of room between the derailleur and the strap right here. He says every time he puts this bike on the rack, he gets dirty. Derailleurs, chains, pulley wheels get dirty, and he said every time he puts this on, no matter how careful he gets dirty. And sometimes him and his wife want to go out to dinner or something, and I understand. I barely just touched that, and I got dirty. So that is one thing. The way this strap is that it is close to your drivetrain. He says it's hard if the bike is loaded here, and he wants to get this one off first to kind of get in this area to make everything work. There's workarounds, all that. Those are little picky details. But when you're looking at spending money on a rack, you might want to know these little picky details. Once again, I'm going to demonstrate the rack ramp. So it has a pin here that you pull out. The pin is actually hooked to a little cable. When you're building this rack, make sure you put the eyelet in here, and that's nice, you don't lose this. There's 2 teeth that go into a hole, 2 holes right there, and that keeps that rack nice and steady, and you can easily, I say easily, you can usually easily roll this bike off the front. So first thing I want to do so I don't damage any spokes is move that out of the way. I'm going to move this out of the way, and you can see it came right where the reflector is, and sure enough, I've got dirt on me. It's hard to keep a bike so clean that it doesn't put dirt on you. My racing road bike and stuff, I wax the chain. You can touch that chain and you don't get dirty, but most bikes aren't like that. So this comes off here, and then theoretically we should be able to just roll this bike off. This bike has a problem rolling backwards. Told the guy I'll try to fix that for him, but that's for another video. But generally, it's pretty easy to roll the bike on and off this ramp. So let me just use this. This is not a lightweight bike, but you can see you can roll this up onto the ramp, up over the bump. Now, he says that he had broken his, this is like a quick release so you can move this wheel chock. He said when he was rolling one of his e-bikes up, he forgot to flip this down, and when he ran it over, it broke this plastic piece. He realizes it was his mistake, so he didn't call outfitter and try to get another piece. He's got a workaround. But that's how that goes on there. And then you can see that this arm will either attach to your seat post or your frame. I don't like putting things on my frame. Once again, I was just talking about that. I'm a little bit bougie. I don't like anything rubbing my paint. Safety wise, it does a good job of holding your bike, having that touch point there. And when you're talking about a 70 or 80 pound e-bike, it's good to have 3 touch points. So for safety, I would not worry about rubbing your paint or find a workaround like I am. I'm going to use a microfiber cloth. So I do like the fact that it holds your bike really well. I think safety is the most important aspect. Now this arm, like I said, I've been using bike racks for years that are no touch. They basically just touch the wheel. This arm seems like it kind of gets in the way for me, but I can get around that. But I did want to talk about this. The first gentleman I talked to who has this rack, he's had it for about 8 months now. He says mainly 80% good, but he lost this. This is on there by a little plastic handled clamp, and you really have to crank down on this or it falls off. It's made to adjust easy for height, but I guess he didn't have it tight enough. And when he wasn't transporting the bike, this is designed to be down here like that, out of the way. And he said it must have rattled loose and fell off. Once again, he equates that up to his own fault by not tightening this down tight enough. But once again, this is not something I'm used to on a top tier rack, that things can just easily come off like that. So, and he did say that he's been tightening this down harder now, and he actually, his hands were very cold, so he used a monkey wrench, something like this, and broke the plastic. So now he's got one of these that are broken because it is a plastic, plastic handle. He said he did it himself with his wrench. So, but I just wanted to throw that out so people know, don't use a wrench, or be a little bit more careful with this. It is plastic. Plastic, I think, is just part of our life in 2025, 2026. There's a lot of plastic in the world. If you want all metal construction, you're going to have to pay a lot more than $400. So this does a good job of being adjustable and being able to fit on multiple different style bikes, multiple size bikes, but you really do have to crank this down, and I would be worried that it would fall off. So when this ramp isn't on here, you go ahead and put this back in where it's supposed to go. It easily just slides back in here, and then you have a pin. So I kind of like that design. There's nothing wrong with that design at all. And having a rack is nice, because some of these bikes are really heavy. Believe me, at the end of a week of working in the bike shop, of me trying to haul bikes up and off, on and off these racks, you feel it. Having a ramp is very nice. When you transport the bike, like I said, this is supposed to fold down like that. They do give you some Velcro straps for safety. I would take the Velcro straps, and when I'm using it, I'd probably move this a little bit closer or something. I'm going to strap it like that so it can't fall off. So anyway, that's just a workaround right there, is don't lose this, or take it off. You know, take it off, put it in your vehicle. Once again, I'm kind of spoiled with some top tier products that I don't have to worry about, you know, a lot of that stuff. But the top tier products, once again, cost twice as much, at least twice as much. This has got a nice wide wheel chock on it, so up to a 5-inch tire. You know, I'm seeing a lot of these e-bikes nowadays have a 4-inch tire. 5-inch tire is getting pretty fat, but it will fit in here. And of course, it'll fit the skinny bike tires in here too. I haven't had my gravel bike or a road bike on here yet, but if it fits fat, it'll fit skinny. So that's, you know, this, and it's constructed well. You know, I put this rack together. These trays are made out of a lightweight aluminum, which is good because it's a heavy thing. They're made to be able to pull out of your hitch and store. And if this was all steel, it would be too heavy. So they've put heavy duty steel parts. The rib and the actual receiver that goes in is steel. That way it can hold the 250 pounds. That's, well, you know, let's just easy math, 80 pounds a bike. And some of these e-bikes are, you know, that 70 to 80 pound range. Carrying 3 heavy e-bikes, you need a heavy duty e-bike rack. So, and that's how they market this. They market this as a 3 e-bike folding rack. And when they say folding, it folds up out of the way, and it also folds down for storage. So driving around with this thing, it's quite big. I've got a measuring tape here. This slid straight into my receiver, and that's 4 feet 3 inches, roughly 4 feet 3 inches out the back of your truck. I'm used to that. I ride around with this Kuat 4-bike rack that even sticks out further. So, you know, it's better than having to pull a trailer. I do have a custom bicycle trailer that I will be mounting this into as well once I get back to Mississippi. Now, this is something that gets in the way. This is not outfitter's fault that there's a big vise on the back of this work truck. But with this vise, I can't roll this down. So it does make it harder to show you how to I've also noticed with these things being long, sometimes it's hard to reach over like this. That's one of the disadvantages of having a 3 or 4 bike rack, is it is long. So I'm gonna wiggle my way in here. Well, I can't even really show you how this thing folds up on this truck because of this vise in the back. I am very, very grateful that someone let me borrow this truck, because today's video was supposed to be on a Honda CRV with a 2-inch receiver. And when I say 2-inch receiver, what I mean is you've got something like this on the back of your vehicle, and this bike rack slips into it like a hitch, like a ball would. So it's nice for accessories. This is a 1 1/4 to 2-inch. This is what a lot of people have to use if they have a 1 1/4 and they want to buy a 2-inch receiver. This is not great for heavy weight. I have seen a lot of people have to use an adapter for one reason or the other. They come in to buy a hitch. You ask them what size, they say it's a 2-inch. They don't know. A lot of cars have 1 1/4. They're not rated for 3 e-bikes or 250 pounds. Don't use these adapters. And I have a lot of people that used to come by the shop with all kinds of different adapters because they didn't know when they bought their rack. This was a very popular one. Like I said, I was going to use a Honda CRV today, which is a cool little SUV. But I asked them if they had a hitch on the back so I could slide the rack in, and they said yes, they do. When I got there, it was a 1 1/4 hitch, which is a smaller square. So they handed me this. This will slide into that 1 1/4. The 2-inch receiver will slide into there, and it lifts it up. The CRV was so low to the ground that this bar pretty much comes straight out. It was, you know, this far from the ground, and if you go over a bump or a dip, it could hit. From what I've seen in the past and accidents in the past with people using these kind of adapters with hitches, I'm not going to take the chance, you know. It is a workaround for people. I highly don't suggest it because a 1 1/4 is not made for the weight of a 2. Now, if you're just going to have a couple of carbon fiber race bikes or something on there, it's different, but don't max out the weight of the hitch. Now, another thing that people don't realize is this has an anti-wobble. That means you can tighten up the hitch so it's not wobbling like this. This outfitter has it in 2 different methods. It actually has a threaded pin that holds it really tight, and it has a plate that mates the actual hitch with the shaft. That plate, it's not a quick release plate. You have to screw the two bolts on. Since I'm going to be using this bike rack on multiple vehicles, unless I'm carrying 3 e-bikes or going on a long trip, I'm not going to bolt that plate up every time I put it on a different vehicle. I've got it bolted to the shaft here right now, but it's not actually bolted where it's serving its purpose. But the actual threaded pin is holding it secure enough that I don't get a whole lot of wobble. But that's harder to do with these kind of things. If you've got the plate here, then you don't have the plate here, or vice versa. So just know that there is a workaround. Be aware when you're looking at a hitch if you need a 1 1/4 or 2-inch. Most 2 inches are going to be on a truck. A truck is high. So when your truck is high, you can have that rack go out back and it's not close to the ground. Most 1 1/4 have a raised neck to them because they're off of a car or SUV. My adventure van has a very low bumper, so I had to put one of these on mine. I've got a big goofy van and I can get away with it, but you know, if you've got a nice BMW SUV or a modern SUV, you don't really want a bunch of hokey looking equipment on it. I can get away with it, but that's part of the buying decision too, is knowing what you have and how your rack is going to work with it. If you walk into your local bike shop to buy a rack, you're going to have a salesman walk you through all this stuff. If you're ordering a rack online, you better know this information. I wasn't able to fold this up for you guys because this is in my way, but theoretically this rack will fold up. You pull the pin, you put the pin in the other hole, and then you can walk away and the rack sticks up, you know, yay big. That's all right. I'm used to it. But once again, with the top tier models, you usually don't have to pull a pin. It you know, kind of works itself into place and a bolt automatically goes in there. There is a difference between the budget friendly, the wallet friendly models like this and your top tier models in usability, construction, overall look, ease of use. So when I first started this video on the outfitter rack, I wanted to see how it compared to the top tier models in some of those aspects: ease of use, fit and finish, thoughtfulness of construction. There is definitely a difference between the top tier model in those aspects and in price. So if you're buying a $400 rack that can hold 250 pounds Outfitter has done a good job of giving you a lot of value for that dollar, but you are going to be missing a few form factors that the top tier models are going to give you. You're also going to be missing, you know, stuff like I mentioned here, this plastic handle. You know, I could see a lot of use. A lot of times that plastic is just a molded insert into some threads. If you put too much torque on that, the insert strips. I've had that happen on some different apparatuses. Most of the time, the top tier models aren't going to have failure rates like that. If you're careful, you're fine. When I'm comparing this to some of the top tier models I use, I feel like it's a step down, but it's also a step down, but it's also something that's doing the job at a fair price. So I talked earlier, you know, I don't have $1,500, $1,800 to go get the rack I wanted. $400, or in this case, Outfitter is letting me test this rack, you know, but I want to be very honest about my review. It is not a top tier rack, but I also want to be very honest and give Outfitter a win. And the category is, it does everything it's advertised to do. For $400, this rack will hold 3 e-bikes. For $400, this rack is, if you mount the bikes up like you're supposed to, is not going to drop your bikes. For $400, it will fold up. You know, it has good steel, good aluminum. The assembly process was a little bit painful. I am a professional bicycle mechanic. I've assembled 1,000 racks. So for me, some of the little things that went wrong during assembly are just part of assembly. That's how you can support your local bike shop. Drop this off and let your local bike shop build it. We used to do it for $40. If you think about that, you know, normally an hour in a shop is at least $75. So we're saying we can put this rack together in less than an hour. It always takes an hour or more to put a rack together unless it's a rack you've done many, many times. This rack, I actually had some manufacturing defect in the rail in the bottom where this little screw head is supposed to go into. It didn't go. I easily fixed it by chiseling that out with a screwdriver real quick, and it fit right in. But if you're not familiar with how to do that, you're like, well, how does this bolt go in? I was also missing 2 pieces. So there's a reason why this is wobbly on this arm. There's 2 plastic washers, part number 16. It's 2 big plastic spacer washers. These racks come with this arm with those spacer washers already attached with the bolt, so I guess people don't lose them. I'm very careful when I put things together. I actually have a blanket, and I put everything out on a blanket so I don't lose anything. Those 2 washers, one arm came with the 2 washers, the other arm came with the 2 washers, the third arm didn't come with the 2 washers. Now I have a very wobbly arm. Those plastic washers, they're also a spacer for the movement so you don't get metal to metal contact, but they're thick, and that thickness makes this tolerance a lot better. So normally on some instructions, and Outfitter had some good instructions. I mean, it's a nice little instruction manual, all in English since they're selling this rack in America. And it was easy to understand what they were doing. This is it, part number 16. These little washers didn't come with it. So I was looking for a phone number on this manual that I could call for missing parts. There wasn't a phone number. I went to their website, and I did find like a customer service block. I clicked on it and can go to a chat. I don't really like using chat, especially when I have to explain or attach pictures. So I sent an email to their support group. So as far as I know, there's no phone number to call and talk to Outfitter. I'm sure that they're gonna, when I looked at their warranty, and their warranty is even hard to find. I had to ask ChatGPT to find the warranty, and even ChatGPT had a hard time. I had to come back twice. But basically 1 year parts. You know, they have an unconditional warranty basically. So, and I believe, you know, they're gonna follow that. So I don't think I'm going to have problems getting the 2 pieces I need. But if you're buying this rack for a road trip, don't wait for the night before the road trip to put this rack together. I don't know how common it is for parts to not be included, but it can happen. Just roll with it. I'm sure that Outfitter's going to take care of me on that little spacer, and I can still use this piece. It's not as sturdy as this. You can see this one doesn't have any wiggle to it. This one has a lot of wiggle because those pieces are gone. So, and when I emailed him, I didn't say, hey, I'm doing a video review for you guys, I need these pieces. I just acted like a regular, hey, I bought this rack, here's my customer order number, and it was missing these pieces. And I did catalog what pieces I was missing, and I took a picture of the pieces I was here. So anyway, that just happens when you're buying direct to consumer. Don't send the whole rack back for a couple pieces. Follow the guidelines and try to get the pieces. You guys saw how beat up the cardboard box was. This rack arrived without a scratch and without a dent. So just, inspect the actual product before you get so worried that the cardboard box is ripped up, because they pack these things good, and I have to say Outfitter did a great job of not using a lot of plastic, a lot of cardboard, stuff like that. Watch my first video as someone that's been a veteran of the bicycle industry. I see how much waste is in packaging material, and Outfitter did a really good job of very, very little plastic. The cardboard did a good job of saving this rack. So I haven't, my final verdict on this rack is it will do the job that Outfitter states it'll do. I'm a bit spoiled with the top tier models. I know right now I can't afford the top tier model, but I still don't know if I really want to use this rack. It's not because of safety. I believe this rack is very safe. But there's just some touch point things I don't like. I would rather spend $600 and get the tire clamp e-bike rack. Now that's only going to hold 2 bikes. I really need 3, so that might not work for me either. But I do like the tire clamp model rather than this. Once again, this is coming from someone who is very familiar with the top tier models. I am a little bit bougie. I realize I have to lower my standards because of my price, because of my pocketbook right now. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. So in the long run, Outfitter is not in the same category as top tier as far as this rack goes. I really would like to see I'll give them another chance. I'd like to see the tire clamp model. But as far as the rack doing what it's advertised and being sold for under $400. Now I saw it was like a $700 rack on sale for $400. I don't really play that game. Right now you can buy that rack for $400 or $380. So I'm gonna go with this rack is $380, and it'll hold the bikes that I want on the rack without a problem. So I'm gonna put it to some use and get a better opinion of it. But some of the hardware I could see maybe not lasting 10 years. My Kuat has held thousands of bikes owning the bike shop. Many bike races, it still looks good. It's a good fit and finish. It's a high quality product, but that thing costs 4 times as much as this. So just remember what your price point is and what you realistically are going to get for that price point. I'd like to say give Outfitter, here's their logo. I see them advertised all since I've been looking for racks. I see them advertised all over like Facebook and stuff now. Try to find out where they're located is not easy. I looked at the box. The box got shipped out of California, but you can't always buy American made, even though I believe in it, but it's very hard. American made products in 2025 at a price point like this. Now you can buy American made. I believe One Up is American made. I know Yakima, Thule, Saris, I believe that was Wisconsin. I think they went out of business. It's hard to produce competitively priced goods in America. I'm not getting political here, but it's just hard to compete with the Chinese manufacturing as far as price goes. But don't let price be your only barrier to entry. Like I said, for $400, $380, $85, this is worth it to carry 3 bikes. But don't think you're getting the same quality as a $1,500 Kuat Piston Pro. Like I said, I'm spoiled. Most of the guys in the RVs that I'm seeing in the campgrounds, and if you look at the outfitter website, you know, they're not really marketing high-end carbon fiber race bikes. They're showing people carrying e-bikes, $1,000, $1,500 everyday e-bikes on these things, you know, heavy e-bikes that need a heavy-duty rack. This rack definitely fits that category. And I'm going to put it to the test. I don't know if I'm going to take it with me like I originally thought I was all over the United States. I might try something else. But this rack will get good use. If I was home, I'd mount it to my custom-made bike trailer. I might leave this rack with a friend and let them try it. But just realize this is not the best rack for a small SUV or something. You do need a 2-inch receiver. And listen to my warning about using these kind of things. If you have a Jeep with a 2-inch receiver and a spare tire, I see a lot of people buy a really nice rack and then they have to go buy some kind of hokey extender, and then you see that rack wobbling around. So the way this bike is, this rack is designed, if you put that anti-wobble hitch plate and bolt it down, for one, it's security. People aren't going to really be able to steal it unless they unbolt everything. It's not like just pulling a pin. And then you use the threaded hitch pin. This thing's very sturdy, but it's also not the easiest to get on and off if you've got to unbolt things rather than just pulling a pin or something. So there's a few things to consider when you're looking at this tier. I definitely don't want to call it cheap quality, because it's good quality stuff. I'm just used to a whole different level. But for $400, it's definitely a sturdy rack if you're looking to carry 3 e-bikes and go have an adventure on a $400 rack. I'm just a little spoiled, so my verdict isn't out if I'm going to actually use this rack or not. But I want to thank Outfitter for sending me the rack. This has been a little bit of a lengthy video, but I also wanted to be very transparent with my viewers, because I know you guys trust me to review and endorse products that I would use. And I'm struggling trying to figure out if I want to use this, mainly because I'm used to something that doesn't touch my frame at all. I did notice on the rack that I do like from Outfitter, the tire clamp e-bike rack, the scissor, I'll call it a scissor rack. I think that one would have fit my bill for a couple extra $100, but it can't fit 3 e-bikes or 3 bikes. Bart from Bike Squad YouTube. Hey, if you like what I do, thanks for sticking with me through this video. If you're considering buying an Outfitter rack or a direct-to-consumer rack, just know you're gonna have to deal with some of the issues that I'm dealing with right now, or I've seen people in the campground having to deal with it. They had to go buy some hardware from the hardware store or something, and they're not blaming the rack company. They're blaming themselves for you know, not tightening something like this down, or using a wrench to tighten it down. And those are the type of things you're probably going to have to deal with on a B tier rack. But for safety, functionality, and overall honesty of what this rack can do, Outfitter's done a good job. For $400, it's definitely worth buying this rack if you don't mind fiddling around with a few things. Bart from Bike Squad YouTube, over and out. Thank you.